After hearing this article, you must certainly come to the conclusion that the government has the technology to make you hear voices in your head. And on top of that, the private sector has the technology to make you hear voices in your head. And many people in the movie industry are liberals, and they constantly make movies that push a liberal agenda. If you don't understand this, you need serious help and research. New York Times by Alex Mindlin, published December 9th, 2007. Last week at the corner of Prince and Mulberry Streets in Nolita, a scene was playing out that would have gladdened the heart of any advertising buyer. Pedestrians were turning and gawking at a 6-story tenement emblazed with a giant billboard for Paranormal State, a new television series about ghosts on A&E. But passerbys were not reacting to the billboard. Each of them was hearing an urgent, disembodied female voice whispering suggestive messages. "What's that?" the voice hissed. "Who's there? It's not your imagination." The voices, which belonged to A&E employees, were emanating from 2 large black speakers above the billboard, which contained a technology called directional audio. The speakers used ultrasound to produce a highly focused beam of sound, making people within their reach feel as if they are wearing headphones, listening to sounds intended for them and them alone. The billboard was described last week on the media blog Gawker. For individuals within the beam, the sound is crisp and intimate. Those outside its scope, which in the case means anyone not standing on the north side of Prince Street between Mott and Mulberry Streets, hear nothing. This appears to be the first commercial use of such technology on a billboard. Peter Swim, a 27-year-old technical support worker at Pando, an internet startup with offices nearby, was among those transfixed one morning last week. Clasping his shaggy bearded head, Mr. Swim peered up at the billboard through the falling snow. "It's neat," he says, with terrifying implications like all things that are neat. Nearby stood David Gamper, a composer who uses electronically processed sound. He stroked his ears with an air of professional appraisal. "The ultrasonics make a sort of tightness in my ears," Mr. Gamper said. "It's like going through an altitude change." According to Guy Slattery, A&E's Senior Vice President for Marketing, no special approval from the city had been required for the sonic billboard. And Kate Lindquist, a spokesperson for the Department of Buildings, confirmed that the city does not regulate sounds emitting from billboards. She added, however, this particular billboard lacked the permit required for all city billboards. In any case, Mr. Swim's thoughts were already moving ahead, or perhaps backwards. "I can't wait for the first political ad," he said, lowering his voice to a whisper he intoned. "Vote Kerry." I mean, if this article doesn't prove my point, keep in mind, this is not some random website with this article. This is the New York Times. Mainstream media. It may as well be CNN. It's the New York Times reporting. And several things to note. One, they were trying to impress upon the people this paranormal, sort of feeling to promote their television series. The secret societies want you to believe in occult, paranormal type stuff so that you give them another form of reverent power. The reverent power you give to an occultist or a great magician or whatever. Okay? But of course, like everything else, it is tricks. They are magic card bitches. Now, how did this... Of course, it was a directional beam. They heard it in their head. How did it end? He said, "I can't wait for the first political ad." Okay? Mr. Swim. Okay? And who did he say? Vote Kerry, right? This is 2007. Think about it. think about it. What am I being persecuted for? My political views. What could he not wait for? A political ad. There was no regulation in the city saying you couldn't do that. Okay? Now keep in mind, the way they're applying it to me is illegal. You know, it would be very hard for them to prove that they're doing it to me, even if they caught them in the act, because they would lack the understanding of the technology, and they could make the appropriate changes to keep them from busting them in the act. They will say, well, I'm just playing with this technology. Okay, keep that in mind. Now, for psychiatry to say that, you know, the government, if you believe the government's persecuting you, you must be mentally ill, is bad enough. I mean, it is so bad that we live in a time where not only do the military have the patents and have been experimenting on people for years, if you've been looking at my videos, you know that, but they say that the private sector has been doing a form of an experimentation, you know, a marketing experiment, if you will, a marketing ploy. I mean, come on, people. If I was to hear voices in my fucking head, which doesn't really happen, but if it did, none of you should come to the conclusion that I'm crazy. There is no proof at all that I'm quote-unquote crazy. But there are tons of proof that political bitches with power and money and great networks have been persecuting me, and some of these networks definitely include this technology. So I definitely do believe that there are people who are targeted with this technology. I think perhaps some of the reason I am not is because I live on a large plot of land. So for them to do it, they perhaps have to be too far away to accurately deploy it. That could be part of it. I don't know. Okay? I don't know how they deploy it. But I do know they have the technology. Okay? And I feel sorry for anybody who does not believe this is true. I feel sorry for people who are suffering from this, because not everyone who suffers from this comes out on YouTube and makes a video. Some of these people believe the shrinks. Some of these people believe that they're crazy, especially if they live in some hick fucking place, you know. If you deploy this in fucking Leith, Dakota, North Dakota, South Dakota, wherever the fuck it is, you know, those rednecks think that they're crazy. You know. It is sad, you know. These people are vultures, and one of the most despicable ways the strong prey on the weak is people who are intellectual, or people who are in the know prey on the ignorant. It is despicable. And they always think that they're cool, you know. I have no problem using my martial arts skills to beat the shit out of them and fucking prey on them, you know, because they are preying on people every fucking day, you know. You know, they don't deserve any mercy. They show any mercy on the people. You know, if they were big and strong, they would be pushing people around, because that's the type of person they are. You know, if they were a man who's big and strong and fucking felt the need to rape, they would rape. You know, if they were poor and big and strong and felt the need to rob an old lady, they would rob an old lady. Who they are is a bunch of people who get together and prey on the ignorant, which is a form of preying on the weak. You know it, I know it. They are sickos. And we all know what they deserve. We all know how gang stalkers should be treated. Take a good look at my wall on the other video.
The military has a vehicle-mounted active denial system. I've gone over this time and time again. It's basically a heat ray weapon. I would play the clip. You know, you should watch it yourself. You know, it basically disperses protesters. You know, and they tested it on people who were knowingly being tested on. Okay, it's an energy beam. Okay. Now this, I will play this clip in rescue because I never played it before and you need to see it. And I warn you, this might be disturbing brace yourself for the sound.
Acoustic device LRAD.
I don't think you saw he was using it on somebody. It was basically a way to use sound to disperse some crowds and to bother people. Look at his reaction. Okay. Now, need I describe how this is used on political dissidents and people who do not like the system? You know, it can be used on prisoners and so on and so forth, okay? When you couple these articles with these demonstrations, and there are countless patents, look up the patents, I'll put them in the comments. I mean, yes, they have this technology. Yes, they are covertly experimenting on people. Yes, people like me are their favorite fucking targets. If you don't believe this, you're an idiot. If you need me to explain how they covertly drug people and refer you to other videos, I'll put that in the link of this video, but you're still an idiot if you need me to spell that out for you. The military has a vehicle-mounted active denial system. I've gone over this time and time again. It's basically a heat ray weapon. I would play the clip. You know, you should watch it yourself. You know, it basically disperses protesters. You know, and they tested on people who were knowingly being tested on. Okay, it's an energy beam. Okay. Now this, I will play this clip in rest because I never played it before, and you need to see it. And I warn you, this might be disturbing. Brace yourself for the sound.
Acoustic device LRAD.
I don't think you saw he was using it on somebody. It was basically a way to use sound to disperse some crowds and to bother people. Look at his reaction. Okay. Now, need I describe how this is used on political dissidents and people who do not like the system? You know, it can be used on prisoners and so on and so forth, okay? When you couple these articles with these demonstrations, and there are countless patents, look up the patents, I'll put them in the comments. I mean, yes, they have this technology. Yes, they are covertly experimenting on people. Yes, people like me are their favorite fucking targets. If you don't believe this, you're an idiot. If you need me to explain how they covertly drug people and refer you to other videos, I'll put that in the link of this video, but you're still an idiot if you need me to spell that out for you. First thing I would like to say is that I do not know if this document is true or if they are putting it out for shock value. But the bottom line is you need to consider what they are saying, because this is what the government is actually doing, almost in its entirety.
Getting people to postpone or avoid marriage, altering the image of the ideal size of family. He talks about compulsory education of children, encouragement of increased homosexuality. Right here on paper. I'm not making this up, people. Educate for family limitation, fertility control agents in water supply. It's right here on this memo. Came out in this Frederick Joffe's papers while he was at Planned Parenthood years later. And it also encourages women to work, so they can't be at home taking care of their families and having more babies. Instead, they must go to work. But they're not going to treat those women well, according to this document. They're going to do everything they can to take away the tax incentives for married couples, for people with more than 2 children. It says right here, under a subject I don't even understand, chronic depression, it says require women to work and provide few child care facilities, limit and eliminate public finance, medical care, scholarships, housings, loans, subsidies, everything for families with too many children. And it even talks about having permits to be allowed to have children, limiting childbirth to only a certain sector of adults, and compulsory abortion for out-of-wedlock pregnancies. Whether or not you think some of these ideas individually might be advisable because you think there's too many people, this is draconian authoritarianism, and they tried to bring it to America. It was written about in Ecoscience, but as I'm going to show you in these clips, it was practiced in countries including China. China is the world model for the stuff that's on this document.
Encourage homosexuality, educate for family limitation, fertility control agents in the water supply. Now, the other day I was having a heated debate with my older brother about this, And he seems to think that two things that I think are just absolutely absurd. I think it's important that I mention this because, it's important the New World Order knows that he's not on my side. Number one, he says that when abortion was legalized, there was not an increase in abortion. There was just pretty much the same amount of abortions before, proportionate to the population. Except for there were illegal abortions and people were strangling their kids and throwing them in dumpsters just as often, proportionally so, relatively so, as they do today, legally. I said that's absurd. It takes a crueler person to kill a baby or to beat the baby out of them or take poison or whatever they used to do. The other thing is, he said that homosexuality doesn't equate to population control because a lot of homosexual couples are, sending their sperm to the sperm bank or whatever, going through a process of impregnating a woman so that they can raise a child together. I said this may occur, but not as frequently as gay people who do not have children, so it still equates to population control. Thank you. Hopefully YouTube doesn't bust my balls for this, but I think I'm going to play one more clip from this video. In fact, it's called Eugenics, the End of Humanity with host Aaron Dykes. I don't agree with everything that InfoWars ever said, but I agree about this and a lot of other stuff.
One of the most important aspects of China's family planning campaign is providing jobs for women. Women comprise 80% of the employees at this lock factory. The factory's barefoot doctors keep track of the women's menstrual cycles and deliver birth control pills at the proper time.
Okay, stop it right there.
Okay, if you've been paying attention to politics, China slightly sides more with the liberals. I don't believe that the liberal agenda will be avoided simply by having Republicans in charge. But China is the model for American population control in some regards. Because China is the country with either the first or second biggest population, depending on, which demographics or population statistics you go by, And America has one of the biggest populations in the world. I think a lot of you just don't think about that. You think, well, it would never happen here. We have, over 350 million people in America. We have one of the biggest populations in the world. If you think we're not considering doing it the way that they're doing it, and most of the first thing that clip said, it was their family planning to have women work. Women working reduces the population for many reasons. Typically, a reason that people do not want to have sex with their significant other is they're too worn out from work or they need their rest. Okay, I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. There's been times when I've dated women who work, and one reason they turn me down for sex is because they needed their rest and they've had a long day. Okay, and then of course they go on to say that in the workplace they're monitoring their menstrual cycles and giving them birth control. These people, do not put it past these people to covertly monitor your menstrual cycles and to covertly administer birth control. I don't know how they would covertly monitor your menstrual cycles, but these people on record want a lot of people to be sterile, and they want a lot of people to be infertile, and they want a bunch of rich, hypocritical filth to reproduce, and a bunch of hypergamy fucking loving whores to reproduce with them. Thank you.